I've been hard on Lucid in the past, if you've been watching my videos for a while, and I still agree with a lot of the statements I made that Lucid is not anywhere close to being a profitable company. And I think anyone that disagrees with that statement is kind of denying the financials, denying reality, and there's still a lot of decisions the company has made that I don't think were wise and could have been handled better. But the reason I'm kind of flipping my tune on Lucid more lately has a lot to do with my attendance at the Lucid grand opening event. It has to do with meeting employees and staff that are working for the company, as well as non-employees, customers of the company that are buying the product, using the product in their daily life, and genuinely excited about the future of this brand. And I have to admit, if we were purely basing the future of companies based on high cash burn rate and low margins and the inability to scale up at high volume, then Lucid, by all means, most of us would have predicted would be dead by now. Okay, let's just be clear on that. I did videos on the past detailing, look at how much money they're losing on every car they sell, and I know most people will even try to compare that to Tesla and say, well, Tesla lost money for many, many years. It took them a long time to become profitable, but Tesla had much better profit margins, I think it's fair to say, on their earlier vehicles than Lucid has currently, and Lucid is burning through far much more cash than Tesla ever did, even at their worst. But the thing is, even me, a guy wearing sweatpants in his bedroom, is able to see these financial statements and see that, yeah, the math doesn't check out. But at the end of the day, same thing with Rivian, same thing with Canoo. There's still these startups that are in horrible financial turmoil because running an automotive company is insanely difficult to do profitably, even at scale. And they find cash. They find investors that are able to keep them afloat. And I wrongly predicted in the past that the Saudis would want to invest in a company that would handle their finances better or would have a quicker path to profitability. And yet, earlier this year, the Saudis continued to pour billions into Lucid. They want to see them succeed, and they want them to continue thriving. I can't get into the minds of these investors. I can't initially predict exactly why they want them to succeed, but there's certainly some decent group of millionaires and billionaires that genuinely love this brand. They love the technology that they've produced, and they want to see them grow. They want to see them expand. And we could speculate all day on all of the advantages of having some of these oil-backed companies that want to have deep-rooted investments in American brands. But what I think this continuous investment in a company that is still not anywhere close to profitability says is that they have financial interest, or at least genuine passion or some bigger meaning to want to own these American-based companies, or hopefully bigger than that, own companies that have state-of-the-art electric vehicle technology, that put a big emphasis on luxury features or efficiency. And that in itself is enough for them to keep pursuing this company's growth and this company's success. So once again, I'm not trying to say Lucid stock is a good investment, you should all buy it. In fact, if anything I've learned from the EV stock market is that most electric vehicle individual stocks are probably not a safe bet. Tesla's pretty much the only successful electric vehicle startup stock. I mean, even legacy automakers have somewhat volatile stock that goes up and down depending on the decade. The automotive business as a whole is not known for having super secure margins. If you're looking for a brand or you're looking for a company that you should invest your life savings into because it'll perform really well, that's so absurdly speculative because we're still so incredibly early in the electric vehicle transition. We still don't have a lot of data to base what the profit margins of this industry are going to look like when these companies are producing at massive scale and have consistent revenue. Everything is still such in the early days that the market's trying to figure out how to value these brands and how long-term a lot of them are going to be. Even Tesla, with its wild, miraculous success in the stock market, can make very, very volatile moves, and a lot of the valuation is based on speculative markets like massive robotaxi revenue, which is still uncharted territory, hasn't been done before. We don't know how the market's going to value that. We don't know what the liability and expenses are going to look like with all of this additional risk when you try to have one software stack in control of millions of vehicles on the road. Even if it's 10 times safer than a human, that still results in some crashes and collisions. What are the lawsuits going to look like? What are the rollouts and regulatory approvals going to look like? There's so much speculation involved, and who knows, even if the stock performs well, Elon could decide he wants to buy up Meta, or he wants to buy Wikipedia, and that can result in another massive sell-off, or it could even be more ambitious or noteworthy than that. He could decide that it's going to take a lot of money to ship a ton of starships out to Mars, and SpaceX doesn't have the cash on hand, so he's just going to sell a bunch of his Tesla stock to cover that. And when people find out that Elon Elon sells stock, it usually causes a domino effect, and that could trickle it down again. So again, I'm not a stock market analyst at the end of the day, and I cannot give financial advice. I am not an investment advisor by any means, but because of that, I think it should be worth mentioning that someone can be excited for a company and a product or a brand that's being built by newcomers with amazing tech and amazing engineering that may not necessarily be in love with the stock itself. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to own a massive amount of shares in every single company that you're passionate about. Like me, as an example, uses a lot of Apple products. I'm recording this video with an iPhone. I edit all my videos on my Mac, and I love my AirPods and my Apple TV and the HomePod. All of these great things that I've never once in my whole life owned a single share of Apple, and that's a pretty great performing company. Honestly, I probably could have bought Apple shares when I was much younger, and they'd be doing pretty well today, but that's not the point. The point is there are companies that love delivering quality products to people, and I think that we diminish a lot of the great things that can come from these startups and these brands that are finding a voice, finding a name for themselves, and carving out their own piece of the market, and finding a way to serve to a community that's interested in the same things that they prioritize. And for me to meet some of these Lucid fans and Lucid employees that are passionate about what the company stands for and really want to make a product that has as little compromise as possible, that has high range and a really smooth ride, and now I'm getting really excited for all of the great specs that we're seeing with the Lucid Gravity. And I know it's the default reaction to a lot of people whenever we talk about what Lucid's working on or what kind of tech they might come up with next, for people to go, yeah, well, none of that matters though, because the stock is down and who knows if they're gonna survive. Like, okay, I get that when the company's on the brink of bankruptcy and is about to die, but we were saying that years ago with Lucid. I was saying that myself like over 2 years ago now, saying that, oh, they're gonna run out of cash or they don't sell enough cars and they're not gonna be profitable. And yet here we are, mid 2024, and they're actively rolling out the Lucid Gravity to different showrooms. Now, very shortly here, I'm gonna be able to go check one out myself in person, and I'm very excited to see it personally as a big fan of efficiency and looking for the most efficient ways for us to transport ourselves and of course still have a lot of utility and functional storage space. I'm really pumped by the Gravity, and the hardworking people at Lucid are gearing up for mass production of this vehicle. So how many years do you want to have go by where this company is making products that a lot of people love? Luke Miotti, another great YouTuber, just recently picked up a Lucid Air and he's loving it so far. Of course it's not perfect, but seeing him enjoy it and love driving it around and seeing the excitement that this brand has built up in its community, even though, no, they're not profitable, but they've inspired enough investors, yes, especially a lot from the Saudis, that are excited to see where this company can go and what kind of products and technology they can scale up. So the way I see it, I think the Saudis are kind of looking at Lucid as somewhat of a sunk cost fallacy, or they're zooming out on a way, way bigger picture, because I refuse to act like I know more than these people who have access to millions and billions of dollars. If they were looking for a company to result in a quick buck or pay out dividends, or they wanted to invest in a profitable business, they wouldn't be pouring billions and billions every year into Lucid. They see something nicer here that they're passionate about, or they see a bigger picture where, no, this isn't going to be profitable quickly, but we don't care about that. We just want them to carve out a market and build their brand so that they have a passionate fan base, and if profitability takes 10 years, then so be it. We're going to keep funding their path there. And you know, maybe people are jealous by that. They're upset by the fact that there's a company that's getting investment and they don't have to try as hard to reach profitability. They don't have to have as great a margins, and they can still do everything they're setting out to do. But I think Tesla kind of started in a very similar way. You know, if it didn't have Elon in the early days and he didn't have that money that he made from the PayPal sale or from Zip2 and X.com and all that, then Tesla wouldn't be where it was today. They found a passionate, excited investor that also happens to be, you know, a very talented engineer that can build these great teams, of course. And I may disagree with how he manages those teams at the end of the day, but the point is, there was someone who was passionate about the mission and the brand and wanted to build out that market that had the funds necessary to get that vehicle company profitable. And Lucid's doing that on a much larger scale, yes, where it's like, okay, this is going to have to burn through way more money and have to scale way more in order to reach profitability. But if they've got the funds to do it and they found their inspired billionaires, then all the better to them. You know, who am I to criticize them for that or fault them when, like, in my own backyard, I'm able to just drive down the street now, check out this new Lucid showroom that was not here a couple of months ago, and see that they have vehicles available, ready for sale. If someone wants to go in one, test drive it, and buy it right then and there, that's an amazing accomplishment that not very many companies companies are able to do. Building a company that sells any product or service is incredibly challenging, and scaling up production and spreading out distribution of vehicles that are so intricate, so complex with Lucid's miniaturized powertrain, their higher voltage architecture, and their super aerodynamic design that is still incredibly eye-catching, and they were able to fit so much absurd amount of storage space in such a small vehicle. And I drove it around and loved it, and I don't want to take away from achievements like this anymore. Sure, down the road, if Lucid faces more financial issues and they're not able to scale, or they're not able to deliver the vehicles that they said they were going to deliver, then that will suck, and I'll be right along with the owners and fans mourning the loss of a company that built a lot of products that a lot of people genuinely enjoyed. But I'm just kind of sick personally and tired of being the doomsday sayer for this long. You know, it's one thing if you're skeptical of the future of the company because you feel like they're gonna die in the next couple of months, but if a few years go by and they're still expanding and they're still introducing new product offerings that people love and are excited to check out and drive and own themselves, then let's just enjoy the accomplishments and celebrate what they've achieved, even if profitability is way down the line. I am not a Lucid shareholder, and honestly, I can't really recommend anybody I know to buy Lucid stock because it's very speculative whether or not this brand will ever technically be profitable, but I don't think that means that they haven't accomplished something truly remarkable and built a product that owners and customers have genuinely appreciated and loved, and it's built a community around it, and it's brought people together, and those friendships and those bonds and that community aspect, I think, is really the best thing that can really come around from these brands. Sure, building wealth in your stock portfolio is important, and you should probably consider that with a real experienced financial advisor, or of course just follow the Dave Ramsey approach of putting money away in mutual funds. You know, it's not going to turn around in 10x in a year, but it is stable, consistent retirement income that's worked for decades, and it is still working to this day for us and many people we know. So I guess I'm hoping that in the future we can kind of separate a little bit more the investment side of the business, which can look really bad, sure, but it kind of always looks bad in the automotive sector. It's not out of the ordinary for an automotive company, especially a new one, to have bad margins and a high cash burn, and we can speculate on, oh, they're gonna die tomorrow, they're gonna die next week, and you're free to run a doomsday channel that speculates what the next big death company is gonna be. But simultaneously, we shouldn't take away from the fact that there's been an amazing community built and vehicles that are now in customers' hands that people are out driving around that are safer, more efficient, and they've delivered a product, you know? And I think that's an amazing milestone that should be celebrated. And at this point, I think if Lucid has burned this much cash and they're still able to raise billions of dollars from the Saudis, why would the Saudis stop now? Like, if it was based on logic, or the Saudis decided that, you know what, we're actually not getting a great return on our investment, they would have stopped investing in Lucid years ago, because that was abundantly clear in 2022, and it's still abundantly clear today. But they're still choosing to invest more in this brand because either they believe in it, they're passionate about it, or they have some alternative interest in owning an American-based startup. But if that alternative interest, no matter how bad or evil it may be, results in a company full of talented people mass-producing quality products that lots of people enjoy driving around, then let them, you know, let them invest and let them create something good out of that evil or selfishness, whatever you think the motivation behind these investments are. I'm personally quite excited to see that Lucid is gearing up for mass production of the Gravity. I think they should have started with the Gravity personally. I still stand by that. It's such an incredible product. Smaller than an R1S with the cargo space close to that of a Cybertruck. Still able to achieve 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour for a 3-row SUV that can comfortably fit adults in that back third row. It's got a frunk like an F-150 Lightning, a huge hatch, and those seats in the back fold flat. Amazing range, amazing efficiency, and we need more of that in the EV industry, so however we get it, I'm all in favor of. So to a lot of the Lucid fans that I've probably discouraged or said negative things about in the past, I just want to apologize for the negativity I've spread around, and also acknowledge that I was wrong. I genuinely thought Lucid would have been dead by now, and instead they're expanding. They're adding new locations and lowering prices and still delivering to new customers every day, and may not be as many customers as another brand, and you might want to buy that stock from another company, but by all means go ahead. But I don't think that needs to take away from the people that do really appreciate this brand or like what Lucid has accomplished. I'm not against constructive criticism, but I do especially think in the EV startup community there's a lot more negativity than it needs to be, and I hope to be a more positive outlook that's still critical when we need to be, but also can be a bit more optimistic about the future and acknowledge accomplishments and milestones that these companies make. Thanks again to everybody supporting this channel directly. It seriously helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.